be recorded. Only those of us who are talking unmuted into this handy little yellow box are part of the recording. And for that reason, and also just for the flow of the event, we ask you, if you have questions for our authors throughout the event, please type them into the chat box, and either I or Davith will read them out for you. So use the chat box for all of your questions. And then a very quick plug for another Northshire Live event coming up next week. We have an event for C.L. Polk's amazing new fantasy novel, The Midnight Bargain. This is fantasy with a really strong romance crossover. I absolutely loved it. It's a magical Regency England alternate reality where women's magic is taken away from them when they marry. And our heroine has gone off to her season, the bargaining season, and she really doesn't want to get married off, but of course she meets a really awesome guy. What's gonna happen? It's delightful, gonna be a lot of fun. Come on back for that one. That's all of the logistics. Now I get to welcome our authors to our screens this evening. This event is in honor of Christina Lauren, which is the combined pen name of longtime writing partners and best friends, Christina Hobbs and Lauren Billings, the New York Times, USA Today, and #1 internationally best-selling authors of Beautiful and Wild Season series, Dating You, Hating You, Autobiography, Love and Other Words, Roomies, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, my personal favorite, my favorite Half Night Stand, and The Unhoneymooners. I'm always happy when I see a new Christina Lauren title on the horizon, and they're with us to celebrate their brand new book, In A Holidaze. We are also joined tonight by Sarah MacLean. In addition to being a best-selling author, she is the host of the Fated Mates podcast and a columnist for the Washington Post. Her most recent book is Daring and the Duke, the third book in her fabulous Bare Knuckle Bastard series, a series that took Regency romance out of the ballrooms of Mayfair and into the streets of Covent Garden. Through this election season, she's been hosting amazing weekly Fated States phone banking sessions on Saturdays. Seriously, the most fun I've ever had phone banking, which generally kind of sucks, and it's a lot of fun with her group. So if you're free on Saturdays and want to phone bank for Democratic candidates, check out Sarah's Twitter for links on how to do that. We are also joined tonight by Rita Award-winning best-selling author Kennedy Ryan. Her most recent book is Queen Move, a lovely second chance romance, really fantastic. I first encountered her work in the book Long Shot, which is beautiful and devastating. I cried like 15 times, couldn't put it down, a really amazing book. And then we are also joined by Sally Thorne. Her debut novel, The Hating Game, was a huge favorite of mine and the Northshire romance reading groups. And she's also the author of the fantastic 99% Mine. And excitingly, I just saw that she has a new book entitled Second First Impressions coming out in April. So yay.
Yes.
Hi. Please join me in welcoming all of our authors, everyone. And we're going to have Christina and Lauren kick it off by telling us a little bit about their new book.
I looked right at Lil.
I know. I knew she was going to punt that to me. Hi, guys. I'm
Hello.
Lauren. I don't know where I am on your screen, but to me, Christina is just right over there. And In A Holidaze is our brand new New York Times bestselling novel. Woo! This came out on October 6th. And this is a holiday book, but if you've read Christina Lauren books, this is also just a CeeLo book. It can be read any time of year. It just happens to take place around the holidays. And the story is about our main character, Maylin Jones. She loves traditions, she loves her family, and she loves this cabin that she goes to with her family every year for the same holiday with her parents' best friends from college and their kids. And so she's very married to this tradition. So in the opening of the book, she has also been in love with one of the other family guys for forever. She's not related to him. I don't know if I said that wrong, but he's like a kid in a different family. And his name is Andrew, and she wakes up the morning after Christmas and realizes that she has actually gotten drunk and hooked up with Andrew's brother, Theo. So not only has she kissed the wrong brother, but then she finds out that the cabin she loves so much is being sold. She lives at home still. She hates her job. She kissed the wrong brother. The cabin's going to be gone. So on the way back from the cabin to the airport, she makes a wish to the universe to show her what would make her happy. And suddenly the car crashes and she wakes up on the plane back at the beginning of the holiday. So it's a time jumping rom-com holiday, kissing in closets. It was a ton of fun to write, and we hope that you guys love it.
And that definitely
The
did
end.
not take 5 minutes.
I know.
You don't have to take 5 minutes. I actually have a question from the audience already. Megan asked, are there any plans to add a new Beautiful or Wild Seasons title to either of those series?
We have not talked about that. The thing is at the end, we had so many characters and everybody wanted to see all of the characters in the books that it just becomes a lot to juggle. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't. We actually love those guys. And in particular, I think when we finished the Wild Seasons series, we didn't really feel necessarily done with them. So if we had the right idea and a way to fit it in there, I think that I don't think that we're opposed to it at all. I will say in our book that comes out in May, there's a tiny little Easter egg it's this called The Soulmate Equation. And there's a tiny little Easter egg for people who have read those books.
The Wild Seasons, yeah.
Yep.
So I've got a question actually for all the authors, which is related to the fact that In a Holidaze is a holiday romance, which I think is the first time you guys have done that, Christina and Lauren. How does everyone feel about Hallmark Christmas movies? It seems like sometimes that's the thing in Romancelandia, but I've been curious about it.
I love them. I think they're a blast. I love any programming that is, programmed for women, for things that we love watching. I love romance anyway, so I am all here for it. I think we started watching a lot more of them when we started talking about doing this book, because we wanted to make sure that we captured the things that people love about Hallmark movies without making it feel like they were just reading a Hallmark movie, So, but yeah, I think they're great.
I started watching them last year while we were doing this because it was like Christmas in July. And so they start playing them. And it's like watching a giant Pinterest board because everything is so like perfect. so I'll probably be watching them this year too.
My thing about Hallmark Christmas movies is that there's never enough kissing. So, I like them fine, but there could always be more kissing, in my opinion. But what I do like, and Christina sort of hit on this, is the sort of sense that I feel like every time anybody sits down to write a Hallmark Christmas movie, they do what we all try to do when we sit down to write a Christmas book, which is like make a big list of all the Christmas things and then just like tick them off. Which is certainly how I have written Christmas before in my books. So.
There's a comment in the chat saying, from Katie saying, Hallmark Christmas movies are good, but more diversity, please.
Yes,
excited for the Netflix lineup this season. And another comment from Cassie saying, we need Hallmark movies after dark for Sarah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do think Netflix is doing a good job.
Yeah, they
know.
Yeah. Why not both is what I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Put Sarah in charge.
Put Sarah in charge, right? Always.
Well, for me, these are not really on my radar. I don't know if this is not an Australian thing, because anyone who doesn't know, I am Australia, coming to you live from Koala Land, and I have not really ever given a Hallmark Christmas movie much thought, but I think that maybe this is my year. I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to be like dressed in rags and just have watched 100 in a row. I get addicted to things pretty easily. So yeah, pray for me.
And Mariana actually just asked if there are recommendations for people who haven't seen any, because she says it's not a Brazilian thing either.
I don't remember a single one. I just know it's a lot of bells and plaid and hot drinks and mistletoe and white people.
It's always
really.
In like the perfect small town. Like there's always like a small town with a gazebo and lots and lots of like fairy lights. And I've never been I've lived in the United States for 40 some odd years, and I've never been in a small town that looks like this at Christmas, but it does in Hallmark land.
What's the Vanessa Hudgens one though? That one was cute. It's like she has a doppelganger, and now there's going to be another one coming out this year that has 3. Somebody's got to know the name of it. So she'll be playing like 3 different characters. That was
Cassie
cute.
says it's the Princess Switch.
Princess Switch. Thank you, Cass.
There's lots of comments saying about, you know, with people, small towns that look like this. And actually, we hosted a romance event a couple of years ago where one of the authors said that the town of Saratoga Springs, where our store is, was one bearded lumberjack short of a Hallmark Christmas. It's kind of that kind of little teeny downtown with lots of twinkling lights. There was a question from Christina asking Christina and Lauren about the soulmate equation and what they can tell us about it, but I would actually love all of you to tell me what's coming next from each of you. So Christina and Lauren, you take it away first, then everyone else tell me what you're working on.
Well, Christina is a great name. I'm just saying. The soulmate equation is what if science told you that they could find your soulmate in your DNA, and they find somebody who is 98% matched to you, but you already know them and you don't like them. That was a very short elevator pitch.
Yep. There you go. It's our first hardcover. It's out next May. We did the cover reveal yesterday and it's gorgeous. I love the cover. So yay.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So what about you, Sally? Could you tell us about your new book coming in the spring?
Yes, it is I guess I would say it's a friends to lovers, and it's set in a retirement villa. And it's about a girl who's like trying to keep it all together while her boss is away on holiday, to manage the retirement villa. But then the son of the owner turns up and needs a place to crash and moves in next door to her. And so she's trying to juggle him, and they're possibly about to develop the site, and there's some really naughty old ladies, and it's really just like cozy and sweet, and has a boy with exceptional supermodel hair. So that's my pitch. And that's out in April.
And how about you, Kennedy? What's coming next from you?
I have no idea how to talk about this book. It's called, I'm launching a new series in April called the Hollywood Renaissance series. And the first book is Reel, R-E-E-L. And it's exploring, it's like a story within a story. So the story, it's a documentarian turned film director who finds this kind of lost story from the Jazz Age, from Harlem Renaissance, from, so you're talking about Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan, the Jazz Age. And so he finds this kind of lost story from that age, and he decides that he wants to make it into a movie. It's a biopic. And so the whole series is really building around this story within a story. And so then there's an actress on Broadway who's never done film, and they end up casting her, and that's his love interest. And so I'm having, as soon as I started talking about it, Piper Hughley messaged me, "Are you writing an historical?" And I was like, no, that's how rumors started.
That was literally my next question.
But you're kind of writing an historical.
It sounds like you're writing a historical, Kennedy.
But so it is like all of the research of a historical novel without the real payoff. So I have to know the story to tell the story inside of the movie. But it won't be like going back in time. It'll be like this lost story comes out over the course of like script read-throughs, acting out scenes, writing the script. So we kind of learn this quote unquote lost story over the course of this biopic being made. So
I'll take 2 copies.
Wow.
Right now.
Oh, and then what's going to happen is Kennedy's going to accidentally write a historical and put all the rest of us to shame.
No way. I burn your air quotes to the ground, Sarah. No way.
There was a comment in the chat, someone who I think speaks for all of us, saying, thank you, all of you, for giving us things to look forward to in 2021. We all need that right now, so thank you so much. And thank you to whoever said that in the chat. I'm sorry that I slipped past your name. And then Sarah, what are you working on? Are you launching a new series?
I am launching a new series. Thanks for teeing that up. Yeah. in the summer, book 1 of Hell's Bells, which is my new Victorian era girl gang series, is coming out. It is the whole premise of the series is 4 books long, and it's about a group of women in the 1840s in London who are sick and tired of patriarchy and want to burn it down. So it's not at all it has no relation to my own feelings at all.
How did you come up with this, Sarah?
Oh, it was a real stretch for me. So far it's really fun, and I hope it makes everybody happy. I can't actually share very much about it. We have a title and things, but what I can tell you is that if you have liked all the heroines of my prior books when they really like come for patriarchy, I think you're going to be pretty happy with this one.
I will take 2
It's
copies.
basically like
Yeah.
it's like I've been sort of looking for the elevator pitch, and I keep coming back to like A-Team, but Victorian girl gang. So that is an amazing pitch. I know, right?
So I would love to hear, actually, I'm going to put my question aside and ask Tina's question which just came in. She says, a question to all the authors. How are you doing right now? It's a tough time, and a lot of us are turning to books for distraction and entertainment, and we're grateful to you for continuing to do what you do. So how is it going, writing and reading and promoting for all of you? And Tina finishes just saying, please take care of yourself because you're precious. So thank you, Tina.
Kennedy, do you want to start this one off?
Sure. It's been a hard year. Like, I feel like every time somebody asks that, I say that, and I feel so bad because I'm like, of course it's been a hard year, but it's been a hard year. And but I feel like I'm just kind of coming into, I don't know, I felt like for a long time with the pandemic, I felt kind of like frozen. Like, there's a lot going on, but I'm kind of like not moving forward. Like, time is actually standing still. And it just kind of clicked in for me, like, you can't waste this whole year because of the pandemic. I wasn't writing. I was feeling very stifled. And then, of course, we're in this house together all the time. And I'm just kind of coming out of that. I hadn't written since, and this will sound ridiculous to all the authors, I hadn't written since February. And the first time I started writing again was in September. And that's the longest I've ever gone without writing, but I just literally could not say anything. The good thing is I don't usually read a lot when I'm writing. It's hard for me. I kind of have to block things out. So during that time when I really just couldn't write, I read like so many amazing things. And that was kind of like, that fed me, that kept me kind of in a decent place. Was all the amazing books I was reading. I caught up on great television, connected with my family. So now I think I'm coming out of it, but it was hard. And we moved in the middle of the pandemic. Like, literally, we moved to Atlanta the day our mayor shut the city down.
Oh my God.
We didn't plan it, and then we couldn't get into our house. We stayed in the Airbnb for 8 weeks in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, and someone stole my identity. I mean, it was just like, what kind of Twilight Zone farce?
I feel like you should have led with this, Kennedy.
I didn't help it all. So it was like all this personal madness going on with the globalness. And for a while, and it's been hard for me to give myself grace to not be like, because I call myself a type A- personality. So I have to always be like accomplishing and driven and working and doing. And so for me to be in a place where I really was like, do I even want to get out of bed? When did I last shower? Do I have to? It was so antithetical to how I'm made. And so I feel like I'm just coming out of that. I shouldn't have kicked us off, guys.
I love it.
Things.
Yep. Sally?
I think I'm doing okay. It has been a really long year, and I really don't have too much to complain about. Well, I do, but I won't. it's just been a long year. We started off here in Australia with the bushfires, which feels like about 10,000 years ago now. But I, at one point, had to pack all of my precious things and put them in the car, and we could see flames from our suburb. And 2020 hasn't really improved on that too much. It's I think working on my book has really kept me going, even though it has been really hard. And I just agree that time has just been dripping by so slowly. But if writing is what we do best, we've just got to keep holding on to that and just trying to chip away a little bit at a time at our drafts. And it's events like this, and people letting us know that they've read your book. It does give you a real emotional top up, I would say. So Australia has dealt with the pandemic really well. Our numbers are, I think we're down to like 200 active cases across the whole country. Canberra, where I live, is the capital of Australia, and we haven't had a case in over 3 months. So things are starting to feel normal, except, social distancing. So really, I feel really lucky and grateful. And I'm thinking of you guys over in the States. It's just, the news is incredible. So please hang in there. Please just take it a day at a time.
Oh,
Thank you, Sally.
Sally, I'm so glad that you guys are doing it right. I'm glad
Yeah.
someone's doing it right.
Sarah, how are you mentally?
I am extremely strung out. I'm vibrating like at a pitch. My husband Eric is like, you have to come down off the ceiling like at some point before November 3rd, which is absolutely not going to happen. If those of you who know me know that I've sort of given up on pretending not to be political in the world. So for me, it's all about like doing everything that I can every day. Like I try to wake up in the morning and do one thing to like move the needle forward in some way. Yeah, Mariana's saying vote, vote, vote. That's
Right.
all I want to say all the time. So the books are, but I also live in New York City, so we have been under lockdown for 8 months. Which is making us all vibrate sort of, but everybody in New York City, when you move here, they give you a therapist. It's sort of part of the rule. So I mean, the writing, actually, I wrote a contemporary during a lockdown, because I was like, I don't know how to put words on the page in historical, so I'm just going to write this contemporary instead, which was really fun. And then now I'm writing Hell Spells. So things are moving forward. I think like Kennedy, I sort of did a lot of spinning around, and then I realized like spinning around is not actually working for me. I need to, put fingers on keys. So it's obviously, and also I've been texting a lot with actually, many of the people on this screen. So which helps too. I send Kennedy a lot of like maps every day. So.
in play. And I have PTSD, and I'm like, don't. I'm scared. No.
Oh my God, I love that. So we're doing okay. I think it's interesting for us because like I was faring much better at the beginning. I sort of like took it more in stride, and Christina was very stressed, and we were still working on a book, and the writing was okay. But I think I hit a wall in September when I expected things to have been better, and it looked like they were just getting worse again. Plus we're heading into the election, plus we had a book coming out, and I think I went to a bad place. But one of the nice things about having a co-author is in many cases, and this is one of them, we tend to only really melt down one at a time. And so when she was having the hardest time, I was able to kind of be her rock. And when I started melting down, she was able to be my rock. And I feel way better. I had a really dark time like a couple weeks ago. I actually texted Christina and Sarah and Jen, and I was like, I feel bleak. And I did. I had never felt bleak like that before. And it was really a different experience for me, and kind of scary, to like be in a moment without hope. So thankfully I'm out of it. And I think as soon as that, I got my reading back and I started really diving back into books, I feel myself coming out of that fog. So I write romance, but I also credit romance with the hope that I'm starting to feel again. So I'm doing okay.
I am doing good. I was not doing good in the beginning. I think the national emergency was declared on my birthday or something, or the day before or something. And I had a couple really panicky, rough weeks where I told Lo, I have to call my doctor and have a talk with them. But we finished a book, I think the end of May, and then have been working on that and working on a couple other things. And, but for the most part, my summer was filled with working in my yard and taking care of my bees. And I started building a dollhouse, which I text Sally about all the time. And that's actually been really good for my mental health because it's something that doesn't have to do with work or my family. And for however long I'm working, my brain completely zeroes out and I'm just focusing on this one little thing. And it's nice at the end to be to see progress on something. And that has helped me so much. It seems so weird that making a little cabinet, filled me with such joy. But I think for me and Lo too, something we've really been working on is finding those little pockets of joy where we can. I'm I always talk about BTS. I love BTS, and Lo has fallen into it this summer too. And so it's just been one more thing we could do together, and it's helped our mental health so much.
So a bunch of different people in the chat asked what you're all reading and what things you've read this year that you loved.
I just finished Snapped by Alexa Martin.
Yep.
It was great.
I read Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and it was awesome, and I loved it. I also loved The Roommate by Rosie Danon. I mean, we've just been blessed with a lot of good books this year, honestly. Yeah, it's been amazing.
I read things I've loved a lot of things. Here to Stay by Adriana Herrera was one of my favorites. Book one of the Gathering of Dragons series, which is, I just finished listening to the audio of book two. I'm an audio person, so I'm on audio all the time. Talia Hibbert, Work For It is another one that I've been listening to. So, and also I just started listening to, there aren't many Kleypas that I haven't read, but I hadn't read Marrying Winterbourne. And so I'm listening to that one now. It's so good.
Kleypas is one of those break in case of emergency books. You have to have one tucked away.
I have to. I want to. It's like I say. I have a couple of Kinsales that I haven't, that I'm saving.
Kennedy.
Can you believe it? I have a Kinsale.
I can.
I have it's like break for emergency because I know she never lets me down. I have a couple of Kleypas like that too. So when I run out, what will I do?
I also love that Milla Vane book, of The Heart of Blood and Ashes. I mean, talk about a book that and it was perfect reading for 2020 too. It just she leans into every single thing, every idea she has. She's just I'm going for it. And that's really inspirational for me as a writer, because I feel sometimes, especially now these days, I'm always sort of pulling my punch initially. And that book really inspired me. And also I am wild about this new Diana Quincy book, which is called Her Night with the Duke.
Me too.
And it's so good.
I can't believe I forgot to talk to you about. I'm so sorry.
Well, we didn't text about it. Well, we could do it right now because it begins. Oh, you guys. First of all, wait, Christina and Lauren, you're gonna love this too because it's only one bed. Only one bed, only one night. Forced proximity. It's all Christina and Lauren's is jam.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it begins with this crusty Duke who's on his way to meet the woman, meet the woman he's going to marry, the young ingenue he's going to marry. But of course, there's a terrible rainstorm and the road is washed out, and he has to It's like chapter page 1. He's like at a posting in, and he walks in, and there's this stunning woman there
Stunning.
who's in a knife fight.
Nice.
Because, yes. And it's unbelievable.
So good. Sarah, how have we not talked about this?
I don't know, but then of course there's no rooms for her because everybody's treating her poorly because she's half Arab.
Yeah.
And he's, of course, very willing to offer up his bed
A
to
true
her.
gentleman.
So they go and they have only one night, and it's so sexy. Like
It's so sexy.
chapter 2 of
Chapter
this
2
book, and
is
I was like,
right off the bat. Right off the bat.
what? And they do it, and it is unbelievably great. And then at the end, she's like, okay, peace out. Like, I have shit to do. And then so he goes off to meet this girl, and oops, it turns out that the woman he had the one night stand with is actually her stepmother.
Dun, dun, dun.
Awkward.
Wait,
It's so
okay, we have a lot of people asking for the name. Okay, Her Night with the Duke.
Night with the Duke.
By
It's Her Night
Diana
with-
Quincy.
Right. Her Night with the Duke, right?
Yeah, by Diana
Woo.
Quincy. It's
It's so
great.
It's so good.
It begins with a knife fight.
Like you do.
Oh god.
Anyway, so that's where my head is book-wise. But Sally, you go.
Okay, so the last book that I read was a book called In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren, and it is so good. It's like it is. How do you guys do it every time? Is what I want to know. Every time I read a book by you guys, I'm just like, this is it. Nothing can be better than this. This one's my favorite, and then the next one comes out, and then it's also my favorite. And then I gather up all of the things I've ever written, and I just lovingly put them in an incinerator. And
Oh, come on.
it's just so good. And it really made me fall back in love with Christmas. I mean, I agree, like you could read this book at any time of year. Like it is not, there's no rule that says you have to read Christmas books at Christmas. But I've been having a lot of problems with Christmas over the last few years, and this is just like really kind of made me think about it and address it in myself. So I mean, I'm just hijacking this to just totally fangirl on you guys, but it is just like, how do you have so many things that are just like my exact favorite thing? Like the scene where they're like lying under a Christmas tree. I'm like, can I just like please get in your brain? Like, how is that possible? Like, it's honestly, it's such a gift to be able to read that and to like visit the CeeLo universe for a little bit and feel better and cackle and like cry at the end. And it just really completely topped me up. And 10 million stars. I loved it.
Oh my god.
I'm putting that on the front of the book.
I know.
And apart from that, because I've been working on my past pages for my book, and I don't really read when I'm writing because of the urge to incinerate. I have had Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer on my nightstand.
It's
for
like
quite
this
some
thick.
time.
It's
And
like
I read it in
so
like 2
big.
days.
Well, mine, I sort of have stalled at about page 10. Like the bookmark is so far at the front that it looks like it's tucked in the front cover. I need to get back into it. But where I stopped reading was he was sitting there being so bored, and I put the book down. But I will get back into it.
Because it's like 40 pages of Edward being bored. That's a lot of bored.
Which is on brand.
I know.
Yeah.
Can I just add that Cassie in chat just said the last sentence of page 151, and I was sitting here while Sally was talking trying to figure out how I could spoil that without spoiling it, and I can't. So you all need to buy this book. If you haven't, you should buy it from Northshire tonight and just skip to the last sentence of page 151.
I'm like, I don't even know what happens on page 151.
Oh,
It's
I'm
the
looking.
sledding. It's what he says to her when they're sledding.
Oh,
It's
okay,
what
okay.
Andrew says to her when he realizes they can be together, maybe. Oh, it's so good.
So good.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. I love Andrew. I love Andrew
I'm
Aw,
taking you
thank
all
you.
with me everywhere.
I know, right?
No, but what I love about this is how like it's so, I mean, you guys do this so much though. When you've built this like huge family that's not just family, but also found family and this community. God, I love romances that do community so well. And the Benny, is that his name?
Benny.
The guy who lives in the attic.
Yep.
He doesn't live in the attic, but you know, I mean,
But maybe he does.
magical. No, he's magic. It's just so much magic in this book. Sally's 100% right.
Oh, thank you.
I mean,
guys.
Yeah.
Sally's always 100% right.
She
but-
is.
She is.
She is.
Actually, I would say she's 99% right.
Ah!
I see what you did there. Flawless.
Had to be done.
Mic drop.
We had a couple of great questions from Anna in the chat about writing for all of you. She asked, she'd like to learn about your writing process and how you go from the seed of an idea to a finished final draft. And then she also asked, a truly great question is, especially for those of you who write contemporary books, how do you plan to write or not write about the pandemic in the future? And do you think authors will just pretend that it never happened?
I need someone else to answer that other one first, because I don't think we've decided how we're going to handle it. Like, I think we're still too close to really want to write about it in our books. Like, it just doesn't sound fun and escapist for us as writers, but also as readers. But at some point, I mean, this is bigger than like a week-long or a month-long event. This has affected all of us for, 8 months. It'll be a year pretty soon. And so just trying to figure out how we incorporate that into Happily Ever After. Yeah. Sarah?
Because we've talked to Sarah about this.
She writes historical. She doesn't have to worry about it.
Oh, right. Well, don't tell them about 2020.
I know.
Patriarchy
Everything
is still a thing.
Exactly. Everybody dies of something in my book. So no, I mean, with historicals, obviously it's different, but it's not that different. I mean, there's also, I feel like the thing about romance is it's always reflecting and telling stories about the world that we're in, even when you write historicals or you write fantasies or you write, magical realism, whatever it is. So, I don't know that anybody needs to write coronavirus like absolutely exactly the way it exists, but I think we're all going to end up somehow reflecting this world in some way in our texts, some maybe not even really knowing how we do it, but I think whatever comes out of American romance, at least after this, is going to look, it's going to look the way it does because it's going to carry the marks of this.
Yep. What do you think, Kennedy?
I have no idea. Like what I'm writing now, I don't want to, like, it's like a movie set. So I'm like, I don't want to have to think about them wearing masks on set,
Yeah.
taking their temperatures and making sure that no one's affected, but I don't know. I think someone asked me this before, and I think for me, there's like a collective, not to be heavy, but like we've lost so many people here in America, and there's like this collective shock and grieving, that we've lost so many people. And I do find myself, as I'm writing, looking at grief, and looking at how I'm handling grief and thinking about all the people who are sorting through loss in a way that as a nation that we maybe haven't had to in a generation or so. And so I, more than explicitly, like my characters are wearing masks, I find myself being affected by what we as a culture are navigating, and how that makes its way into the work, more so than explicitly, I've got on my mask. It's more like that, how it's affecting me as a human, and how
Right.
how it plays out in storytelling is kind of more reflective of how I'm thinking about it. Not that I'm asking up at some point,
That's so interesting though, because we were actually talking this morning with Christina and I with a friend about just going through a hard time and sort of how we are each going through it at different times, and how even though it's been rough, it's making us more like feel maybe like our empathy is stronger, you know, for people who are going through different things, either that we don't understand or we do, but we can kind of put our brain in those places and imagine how that feels. And so I think maybe that's what, you know, that's what we're all going to end up doing, is just like writing with a bit more emotional depth, which I think is great. I think writing about pandemic for romance is hard because you, like you said, masks, like these are books where we want people kissing and close, and we want them touching, and you know, that sort of takes the buzz off of it if you have to, like, you know, figure that out. If it's just sexting, like it's a little different.
Temperature.
Not until the COVID test comes back negative.
We're waiting on it's like it brings we're waiting on the test, like a whole new
Yeah.
yeah.
But I feel like we missed a writing process question in there too. So
Yeah.
I feel like I mean, for Christina and I, it's really different than for probably you guys, but we always outline together and then we split up what we're going to write, and we write and kind of combine as we go. So people are always really curious about how we write as a pair, but that's usually how we do it. And yeah, I'm actually curious for the three of you guys, how your process differs from each other. Like, what do you do when you sit down to start a new project? Sally.
Sally.
Sally's like, don't call on me, teacher.
Science.
We're all like, what? Well,
Sorry,
we
my
don't- what?
internet connection, it's breaking up. What?
I'm
Sorry.
going into a tunnel.
You're going to Zoom is failing.
Well, my process is an absolute hot mess of personal doubt, crying every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, putting things in the incinerator, having the hardest part for me for writing is always sitting here going, I don't know, and then realizing, of course you don't know because you haven't made it up yet. I have this realization like every day that there is actually no answer to the problem. You have to come up with it. And the fact that I have this realization every day just shows that I don't know how I made it into this particular Zoom. Like, I'm just happy to be here.
Same.
But I also, I guess maybe more seriously, I just try to get down as much words as I can really fast. I've done NaNoWriMo a lot, and I like and also crumble underneath those kind of big group challenge situations. It's a real day-by-day thing. It ain't pretty. But please, everybody, tell me how to do it better. Next person.
You know, I used to have a lot of guilt around how I write, because all my friends who write like 6 books a year, or, you know, 5 books a year, and I can like barely crank out like 2 books a year, and they post the word counts and they're like, I write, you know, 4 million words a day. And I'm thinking, why can't I write 4 million words a day? And just kind of thinking, looking at other people's process and how they arrive at story, and thinking I'm not doing something right. And I took a course, Write Better Faster, with Becca Syme, and she went through the Strengths Finders, and it really, really liberated me as far as thinking about my process, because of the way I'm made. My process on the beginning looks like you're not writing at all. You know, there's usually a lot of like research. I do a lot of interviews. Like as I prepare for the next book, I've been doing Zoom interviews, videos. I record them and then I go back and I listen to the interviews, and that really fuels me. Music is a really big part of my process in the beginning. Like, I looked at my playlist for this book. I haven't really written many words. I have 80 songs on the playlist, you know, because I really have to it sounds so precious. I have to feel it. I have to feel passionate about it. I have to feel compelled about it. I use my Pinterest board a lot, where I really start to build out like this world. It's like I have to feel intimate with it before I can just sit down and start writing. And a lot of times I can't just sit down and start writing because I don't know yet, you know, because I'm often writing something that requires research, that requires these interviews, so it's like when I sit down, I literally have nothing to say until I've gone through that process. So the first part of my process, which can be it can be months of research and interviews and poring over all this stuff that doesn't really ultimately matter. And then, you know, once I start actually typing, it goes pretty fast, but I have to do all of that. But Becca Syme helped me feel okay with that, you know, helped me look at the way I'm made and understand if I don't do it that way, I won't arrive at story in the same way. It's that process is it's an outgrowth of who I am as a person and how I'm made. And that was very liberating for me. That course and my one-on-ones with her were very liberating for me as a writer.
That is good to hear, because I just started that class this
Did
week.
you?
Yeah, I just got my strengths like yesterday. So
Okay, here's the text.
So my process is a big mess also. I feel like everybody here should listen to Christina and Lauren.
Right.
I am a mess.
Because my process is that I can't start a book until I know how it ends. Which when you write romance you would think that writing romance that would be easy, but what I actually mean is I can't start a book until I know like the last sort of big climactic scene, the emotional drop that comes from it, and then how it all resolves. And so it can take me months to get to a place where I'm like ready to start a project. And also when I propose projects or when I like come up with projects, it's never just one book, it's always a whole series. And there's usually an overarching sort of quiet plot. That doesn't mean that you have to read the books in order, but just means that like by the end, there will be a payoff that if you've been with me the whole time, the payoff is worth it. And so for me, that means that, like, for example, I couldn't start book 1 of Hell's Bells until I knew what that payoff was in book 4 of Hell's Bells. So it's just a lot, but I actually don't plot. That's the problem. So I know what the big set piece is that I'm writing toward, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. And so it takes a long time, and I'm a very slow writer. And I'm very jealous of people who are able to write, 2, 3, 4 books in a year, because I cannot.
So there's a question a ways back in the chat about favorite tropes. And I'd also love to hear about your least favorite tropes, and also whether the tropes that you like to read the most are different from the tropes that you like to write the most.
I love it when people hate each other. And when there is only one bed.
I love brothers best friend stories. I love forced proximity to write and to read. Enemies to lovers is fun just because it's fun to write the snark, but I think it's hard to make it really believable always. So I don't know. Everything is crack. Like it depends on, like, there's some authors I'll read whatever they write. They could write like the same trope 400 times and I would keep reading. So
I love Second Chance is probably one of my favorites to read and to write. I like if it's really done well, like childhood love to adult.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's crackish for me. And I also love, and I don't see these as much, this is gonna sound so morbid, I love widow books. I love like books where she's basically which is still like kind of like, I guess, derivative of Second Chance in some way, but not really. It's kind of her second chance. I love that book where she's coming out of grief and she finds love when maybe she thought she wouldn't again or had never. So yeah.
You mentioned the childhood, and I just want everyone to know, if you guys want, like, everybody should read this book. I'm being serious. I loved this book so much. It's so good.
Thank you.
Okay.
I agree. Me too. Childhood friends to lovers is like my favorite. And I especially like it if in between your enemies for a while. Like if you really hate each other's guts for a while in there, then it's really like, it really warms the cockles of my heart. And
we kind of wrote this year with Barry.
I I've written it a lot. I've written a lot of like, we once were into each other and now we hate each other's living guts. Oops, we're in love again. That's my favorite. And I really love, I like also, I mean, I like everything. I'm really easy. But I also really like Only One Bed. I really like Just One Night just to get it out of our system.
Oh yeah.
That's my,
Oh, yeah.
that's really like, it hits the spot. And, and I really like Educational Kissing. Like, I don't think I'm good at it. Will you help? Brother's best friend.
Yep.
It's so nonsense, and I buy it every single time.
I know. I love it. I know. Yes, that's a good one.
For me, I think that in Australia, you guys call them Harlequin novels, but we call them Mills and Boon here in Australia. And I probably read about 5 million of them before I was 12 years old. I used to keep sneaking them from my grandmother's. And so I had read like every trope that ever there was. And I have a real soft spot for, I like adventure romances. I love things like Shipwrecked or Crashed on a Planet. I love things like that. I love Forced Proximity. And I love childhood love. So like In a Holidaze, just like really just like it hit me like right on that little bullseye of my heart. I mean, talk about forced proximity, like how many like closet kisses was there? I was like,
A lot.
this is really, really my jam. Big time. I'll read anything as like it doesn't even have to be good, to be honest.
The book that we're working on right now is an adventure romance. It's kind of like Romancing the Stone meets Girls Trip meets The Hangover, sort of. So
Gimme.
Nice.
yeah, it's been really
I'll
fun.
take 2 copies. I think what I'm supposed to say.
So we've got 2 quick fun questions. One, Cassie asks, what drink pairs best with your next book? And Mariana asks, what's your favorite cake or dessert?
What drink for soulmates? I mean, for In the Holidays, I would say like a spiked cider or something warm and cozy, probably. For soulmate, I don't know, maybe like a gin and tonic because it's like looks clear, but it's kind of complicated. I don't know. Cassie's clapping, so I think that's what she wanted to hear. She just wants permission to drink gin. And
I don't
favorite
drink,
dessert?
so
I don't have one.
I
Pie.
don't drink, so because it just makes me sleepy, which is super boring. So I'll just have like sparkling water for all of them, probably. Boring. And I like
I'll
every
take her
dessert.
drinks.
I like every dessert. So Lo can have the drink and I'll have the dessert.
Sounds good.
I don't drink very much either because it makes me really sleepy too. And but the one thing I drink every time I drink is a lemon drop. I love lemon drop. And so I'm just going to say that's my book drink because that's the only thing I really drink on a consistent basis. And then my dessert, I love anything lemon cake, like any kind of lemon cake with lemon frosting or anything that is yellow that used to be on a tree. Like I put it in a cake, in a cupcake, in a cookie, and I want it. So anything lemon all the time.
Yep, I love lemon.
Sally, you go. I'm still thinking.
Well, for my next book, it's set in a retirement villa, so I really have to say that it is a really good cup of tea, or the old ladies, they're mainly old ladies who live there, and they probably do hit the hard liquor in the afternoon, so I don't know, really, really expensive scotch or something. It would be one or the other. And I will eat anything, like just, you would have to put a muzzle on me for me to not have dessert. So strawberry shortcake, how about that?
Aw, that's so cute.
On brand.
I get that reference.
My next hero owns a tavern in London, and they smuggle bourbon into this tavern. So I think bourbon is on the menu, drink wise. And I think dessert for me, I mean, I love a dessert. So, but I like things that are, I'm more like a vanilla than a chocolate. So I'm probably like a lemon. Oh, you know what I love? Lemon meringue.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's pretty delicious.
That's pretty
Very difficult to make. And my mother, fun fact, my mother who is English would tell you that you can't make it when you're on your period. So there you go. Piece of advice from my mom.
What's my excuse the other 25 days of the month?
I swear to God, my mother has a meringue recipe, and I was like, and I called her for it, and she was like, the first thing she said was, "Yes, I'll give it to you, but just so that you know, definitely don't make this if you're on your period." And I was like, "What is it? What?" And then I was like, "Is this a thing? Like, is this a thing chefs say?" And then Eric reminded me that chefs make lemon meringue every day if they have it in their menu, so it can't be true.
Rain or shine.
Yeah. Like, all right.
So
God,
one
I love
question
Mom.
I had for all of you was, I've always admired the way romance authors sort of support and promote each other's work. And I was wondering if any of you had authors who noticeably really sort of lifted you up when you were first starting out that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you know, I think a lot of it came from connections either through people we had met at conventions. So there were a lot of YA authors like Tahari Mafi and Ransom Riggs. We had known them, and they really shouted out for us. I remember going to a party at their house when they were in Santa Monica, and they had all of these like Lee Bardugo, and you know, Ransom has the Miss Peregrine's Home for Curious Children, and they have all these huge authors there, and then they had Beautiful Bastard next to all these books on the mantle, and we were like, that is so sweet and so unnecessary. Like, it was just like one of these things is not like the other. So, and you know, I remember like Christina talking to Ali Condi and just her saying like, keep going. And but yeah, I mean, I think for us specifically romance, like, you know, not to be awkward or anything, but Sarah has been one of the biggest champions, and like letting us come on the podcast, but also just like, you know, welcoming us into the community from day one. So that's been really big. And I think one of the things that's wild is when you have an author whose books you read before you were published, and then they become a friend, and it's still like, you kind of always have that feeling of just like, really, you know? And so I think we will always have that about Sarah to some extent. So I just think the whole community is so lovely though. Like, it's just, and it's genuine. It's not like we'll get off the Zoom call and be like, ugh, like, did our part, you know. I think we'll get off the Zoom call and immediately miss seeing each other's faces. So we're just lucky to be here.
I have to say the Ali Condi thing, because for people who are writing, I went to, Lo and I were still querying, and I went to the release party of Matched at the King's English in Utah. And I got up to her table, and my friend that was with me told her, "This is my friend Christina, and she's writing, she's on submission now." And so she wrote in my book, don't give up. You can do it. Keep going. And then years later, I went to her signing again, and I introduced myself, and I had my book, and I told her what she wrote in it. And I told her, you know, that we had like 10 New York Times bestsellers or something like that. And her reaction was so lovely. She was just like, "I'm going to have you sign my book." And, you know, it was really cute. So anytime, you know, never give up, just keep going. She was right. Just keep going. It only takes like one yes.
That's true.
You guys kind of took my answer, because I was going to say Sarah.
Oh my God.
I really was.
No, the truth is though, I just shout about books that are amazing and then force people to be my friends. That's how this works. It's my like sneaky way of getting cool people to be my friends.
Well, I mean, really, like, I don't know if Sarah tweeted something or said something, and I was like, how does she even know I exist? Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's how I felt about it, was because I'm like, she is like a queen, you know, in this community, and so incredibly talented. And I was like, how does she even know I'm a person? You know, I didn't have any, I'm being serious, you know? And so when I think
may have tweeted about it or something. I was like, how am I even on your radar, lady?
Look at Sarah. She's so uncomfortable right now.
I know she's so bad.
Blushing.
Terrible. This is terrible.
Never seen Sarah blush.
I'm going into a tunnel.
But it's true. And she has been such a champion for me. Like, I know there are a lot of people who wouldn't even, have given my work a chance. And Sarah, shouted for me so much and has supported me in so many ways. And people will even events like this, people will reach out to me and say, oh gosh, I'm going to get emotional. They'll say, Sarah told us, that we should reach out to you. Sarah said that you would be amazing for this. And just to have somebody so talented believe in you so authentically and, push you out there, it's, it means a lot to me. So thank you, Sarah.
Kennedy. Oh my God. You guys are- Oh, well, thanks. I'm so glad. I just think you're all such brilliant writers. Like, all I want is to just read gorgeous books by gorgeous people. So, I mean, you never have to thank me. I just tell the truth. That's it. You've all made me feel a little old too, because I've been around longer than you.
Sarah, I'm older than you.
But when I started, I write historicals, right? Which is different than all these guys. And I was really, really lucky because I started writing and some of the biggest names in historicals really were so supportive. I mean, Lisa Kleypas immediately started banging the drum for me, and Julia Quinn and Beverly Jenkins was so kind to me at the start. And I mean, just people who I had been reading from the beginning who were so willing to just like step up and say, oh, hey, you should read this person. She's the real thing. And I have always believed that my work is to like make other people love romance as much as I love romance. And so whenever I recommend a book, I do it because I really did love it. And so I've recommended books by all of you many times. So, and it's because I love them.
For me, I would not even be in this chair or in this Zoom if it was not for Christina and Lauren. Like, you guys are the reason I have books, like, for reals. We knew each other way back when we were all writing fan fiction together. And you said if I'd ever finished anything, just let you know and you'd read it. And so I was like, oh, I wrote this story, and they read it and they said, oh, this is really great. Could we pass it on to our agency? And I was like, sure, go ahead. I never thought anything would ever come of it. I just was like, oh, you sweet, sweet friends, nothing will happen. And then I got an email from Taylor at Root Literary, and she said, are you looking at getting an agent? Who else are you talking to? And I'm like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm like in my room in Australia, like, and it all just unraveled from that. And I've said thank you like a million times, but the way that you always, you so genuinely feel that there's room for everybody, I think that is just what is the most magical thing about you guys, even more so than your magical writing. Like, every single romance book, if it does really well, is not taking away from anyone else's success. It just means there's more and more demand and more people can tell their stories. And I just love that about you guys. And when we met in person for the first time in April last year, and you like hugged me, one from either side, I was honestly, I was thinking about if I was having like an In A Holidaze moment where I could just like the same moment in a loop, I think it would be that hug for sure.
That was a good hug.
We're a sandwich hugger.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was great. It was amazing.
That was a hug like 10 years in the making though. We made it weird. Like, everyone around us was like, all right.
We make a lot of things weird, Lo. We really do.
So unfortunately, we are just about out of time. And honestly, this kind of paying it forward love fest that we've just had feels like kind of the perfect note to end on. Because
It
like
does.
all fairy godmothered each other, which is amazing. Thank you so much to all of our authors. This has been a fabulous night. Thank you, audience. I could have stayed all night. I know you probably all could have too, but I know everyone has stuff to get to. But this has been a real treat. It's wonderful having all of you here with us. Please come back to future Northshire Lives, including the wonderful C.L. Polk event for the Midnight Bargain next week. Seriously, you all should read that book. It's really good, even if you can't make it to the event. It's fantastic. And everyone, thank you so, so much. And we'll see you all again real soon.
Thank you
Don't
guys.
forget to
get
Thank you.
in a holidays.